meeting. My name is Preeti Kaur, and I am the president of the ISM New Jersey chapter. I've been in supply chain for over a decade, and previously with Allergan, Novartis, Sandoz, mainly in the pharmaceutical space, and currently I'm a director of global risk management at AbbVie. Today is pretty exciting. So we have an exciting fire chat about building personal resilience through COVID-19 with our esteemed guest. And before we get started, I'd like to share some of our upcoming events. I can't believe we're almost in November, close to Thanksgiving, and one more month to go before the year ends. Though there has been, it's been an interesting year to say the least, but we have survived. So we are surviving through this pandemic and keeping it still exciting within our professional world. So we have some upcoming events lined up for you guys for the month of December, and then I'll share a little bit about a couple events, at least an event that that's going to get featured in 2021. So for December 2nd, we have our Meet the Author program featuring our new author, Julianne Ryan, and our guest host, Sarah Scudder. She's the president of RSN. Followed the next day, December 3rd, we have an event, a webinar about best practices for establishing a supplier diversity program, removing barriers to success for diversity program, and then industry trends to consider. December 9th, will be our last membership meeting for the year 2020. And we will end it with the topic of managing personnel working from home. And so for 2021, we will be launching, hopefully with a very fresh set of new year 2021, welcoming everybody with the voice of supply chain. That's an interesting program that's going to get launched. I want to keep it a secret in terms of the details, which will come later to you, but it will be an exciting event as we kick it off. Last but not the least, ISM New Jersey annually and its members actually donate to the U.S. Marine Corps Toys for Tots program. So I definitely encourage folks to, if you would like to participate, please donate to the drop-off center and/or online at the toysfortot.org. It will be graciously appreciated, anything that you can support the organization with. So before we again get started into the fireside chat, I'd like to pass the ball to Anu Rao. She will give us some information about the membership, and we will start the program right after. Anu, over to you.
Thank you, Preeti, and good evening, everyone. Now, there are so many tangible benefits to being an ISM New Jersey member, and today is a perfect example. I'm just so excited that I get to hear from Camille again. Anyone who attended the Women in Leadership program last year knows how inspiring, fun, and high energy she is. And we have this year's Women in Leadership panelist, Amanda, who will be talking to her. Now, I know that it sounds like a shameless plug for the Women in Leadership Conference, but what I do want to emphasize is how cool it is that we get such powerful speakers for our membership meetings. This year, our new member enrollment has dropped because we have not been able to organize outreach events. So I, on behalf of the membership committee, want to request all the attendees to encourage your colleagues and contacts in the field of supply chain to consider attending one of our virtual meetings. Now, at a time when all of us are so socially isolated, it'll probably do us a world of good to meet people beyond our work groups. So just encourage them to attend one meeting, and I know they'll be convinced. So starting with the next meeting, Kathy is also going to include a networking session after the talk so we can almost replicate talking at the ISM New Jersey dinner table. So I hope to get a lot of support from everyone here. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone and wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. And I'll hand the stage back to Preeti to introduce our esteemed speakers. Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you, Anu. Thank you for reinforcing the fact that we are trying very, very hard to keep our members engaged in this environment, and we need to ensure that our members continue to grow. So your support is extremely important in this journey of keeping our programs running, keeping our professional network engaged virtually. So thank you. And you kind of took my thunder away in terms of introducing both Amanda and Camille. What can I say? I guess we are joined by two amazing special guests and ladies. Camille Batiste, she's the president of Global Supply Chain at ADM and in the industry for over 2 decades with an extensive amount of experience. And Amanda Prochaska is the Chief Wonder Officer at Wonder Services. Ladies, there's a lot of interesting things that are happening, and what can I say? I guess since our topic today is about resiliency, I guess I want to start off with just asking a question. How have you kept yourself on a personal note? I think your bios are published. People can read them and get a lot more out of it than from your experience. But I think from a personal note, please share with me, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy during this pandemic? How have you survived? What's happening?
Camille, you want to start off that one?
Amanda, go for it.
Okay, so I will say I'm a business owner, so I've been staying busy by focusing on how I can help my clients most of all on a professional level. But on a personal level, I would say I focus on my family, right? What an opportunity for all of us to get closer with our family and friends, even though it might be from a distance. But I am cherishing every moment with my kids, to know that this time is very precious, and it's time that I frankly didn't think I was going to have this year. So I just reflect on all the things that I am getting out of this and how I can be grateful for that.
I'm close. I think my kids are a little bit older, so COVID or no COVID, they probably don't have any interest in spending time with me. But I have found that, a lot of my friends are spread around the country and indeed around the world. And ordinarily we would not have a chance to get together. But we've actually found the opportunity to use Zoom and all the other portals to get together much more frequently than we would have otherwise. And it's been, for me, at a time that I needed it, and needed to reconnect with people that I know and love and people who care for me. And so it's been really nice. I would not have, in a normal world, I would not have been able to meet with friends who live on the West Coast, the East Coast, the South, and the Caribbean all at the same time. But I do that now on a biweekly basis, and it's been quite a blessing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I thank you for sharing that, because I think I share the same, sentiment with you. I think it's been, I don't want to say, I guess it's been a blessing and a disguise to have COVID around. With people with little kids have been able to spend the time challengingly, keeping, with their social life at home and trying to give them homeschool, at the same time homeschooling them. And on the other note, I think for us that don't have little kids, we have, or have no kids, have been able to connect with their social network and do virtual wine sessions. I personally have done that myself. It's actually, in the times when you can't meet people, we've been still able to connect and move along. So thank you for sharing that. So, and without any further ado, I want to get us started on the fireside chat today. Amanda, I'm going to hand over the stage to you. So please, thank you.
Okay. One additional thing that I'm super grateful for are my landscapers who decide to show up right during this meeting. So I'm going to have a nice clean yard after this, but there might be a little bit of background noise, so I apologize for that. So I just want to take a moment to thank Pretty You, Anu, Kathy, and the entire ISM New Jersey team. You guys are amazing, and to put on something so relevant as this conversation today. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And Camille, I cannot wait for your responses to these questions. So it's going to be a good conversation here. So Camille, let's start off with, what does resilience mean to you personally?
Mm-hmm. So, in preparation, I knew you were going to ask me that question, Amanda. I actually went on, I guess it's Google, or I don't know where I went, but to get a definition of resilience. And I found the definition was the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And the way I think about that is elasticity, right? The ability to bounce back. We're all going to have challenges in life, whether it's a pandemic, it's a hurricane, multiple hurricanes, fires, or things that are going to happen, or just personal things in our lives that we have to deal with. And so when I think about resilience, it's not so much the ability to avoid the negative, but it's how do you respond to something that's negative in a way that protects your core. And so we can talk about some of the things that I do, but I really think about it as being able to respond in a positive way, in a way that keeps me emotionally stable and able to continue, right? To be able to be ready for where the next challenge is going to come along. So elasticity is a word that pops to mind.
That's great. That's great. And I was actually talking, I mentioned my girls earlier. I have an 8-year-old, and she is probably a little bit more on the pessimistic side of things. Like, she looks at the glass half empty kind of an approach. And this morning I was trying to lift up her spirits and think about positive things, because a lot of resiliency and how you bounce back is thinking about positive thoughts. And she brushed her teeth this morning on her own without being prompted. And I said, today's going to be a good day because you brushed your teeth. Like, it's just like those little things that can make such a big difference about how you have a positive outlook on life. So thank you for your comments there. Now, I am curious, we talk about the concept of how to bounce back, but what are the skills that you can develop to become more and more resilient throughout your career and your life?
Yeah. You mentioned being positive, and I love that, because again, when things happen, you can take it in one way or the other. Somebody who's pessimistic can take the best news in the world, like, hey, it's sunny today, and can turn it into something negative. Well, it's going to be too hot or it's going to rain later, right? As opposed to, oh my gosh, look at all the wonderful things we can do because it's sunny today. So I think certainly being positive and having a positive and an optimistic mindset. I think being open, just having an open mind, being open to the possibilities and the possibilities for good. Focusing on fact and truth. I think sometimes when we're in a hard place, sometimes we can sort of start to feed our minds with everything, all the reasons that things can go wrong. For someone to have resilience, you also need to be feeding your mind with what can go right, with fact and with truth. I also think it's important to take action. Sometimes, when we have opportunities that are put in front of us, the opportunity only brings value to you if you take it and you do something with it. So in terms of the skills that I think about building both within myself and within my team, it's taking advantage of the opportunities, having a bias towards doing something versus a bias to inaction. But even that proceeded with careful thought. Because the flip side of that is that you just go jump, something's happening and I take an action. Well, no, I think it's really thinking about what are the options available to me? What data do I have to support one action or another? And then once you have that data, taking that action. The other side of it from a personal perspective is also making sure that we take care of ourselves. And I think about that from, body, mind, spirit. So I try to work out at least three times a week. This week has not been a good week, but really try to get that exercise, which helps me to think actually and clear my mind, but also I feel good. I feel good when I've exercised in the morning. taking time to feed my mind, whether that's reading. I try to alternate between a business book and a fun book, and then another business book. It's the business book, and then I get to sort of have my dessert with something just fun and light, and that just really helps me just to relax, and that's something that I enjoy doing. I think from a spiritual perspective, taking the time to meditate or to pray or just to spend time alone and have introspection has also helped me. And I've actually had some very tough personal issues come up, and that time has been really, really helpful. And the last one is what we talked about earlier, is about allowing myself to be loved by other people. That's something that I am learning. My friends are teaching me that, yes, Camille, you're always self-sufficient and you're the one helping everybody else. Allow us to love you. And I'm learning that it feels really good.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that.
Oh, it's like the fuel in the tank, right? That being loved by others.
Mhm.
Now, I loved your example too about taking care of yourself, you know, in all of the different aspects. And one thing that my husband and I learned was that with everyone at home, it was hard to communicate. Like the girls our kids are always here. I'm working from home. He's working from home. We're all kind of together. And so it was just hard for us to have time to talk one-on-one. So we decided that we're going to walk every day, and we have been for, I don't know, for the last several months. And so we walk for an hour, but it's our time, just the two of us, to have the conversations that we need. And it's been such a blessing, because with the world swirling around us, to have that connection and the conversations is so critically important.
Mhm.
So we've been combining a couple of your tips.
That's
for
awesome.
sure. So here's the alternative. What are some indicators that maybe we need to build a bit more muscle in this area? And we've all been challenged in different ways this year. And, you know, are there indications of where we might be lacking, and how do we know that?
Yeah. I think one of the first thing that comes to mind, and that tells me when I need to pivot, is when I feel like I'm being controlled by fear or being controlled by anxiety. And I choose the word control because there's nothing wrong with having fear, and there's nothing wrong with being anxious. It's, what do you do with it? And
Right.
you know, and then so to me, that the fear and the anxiety will come, then we have to apply those skills, right? What is truth? What have I experienced in the past? What can I do to make my situation better? So I think that's one, an indicator that it's not there is when you find yourself being controlled or taking action based on fear. You know, feelings of hopelessness or feelings of defeat are areas that, you know, there may be times that we need to reach out to others when we feel that way, and maybe if we don't have it in our own tank to feed those positive thoughts, that we can actually rely on other people to help us with that. I think too, you know, something that will lead to this is I mentioned earlier, having an open mind about what are the possibilities. I think the opposite of that is having a closed mind, or having a fixed mindset, if you will, if you've read that literature about what's possible. I think that can lead to the fear and the anxiety. And so if we're always thinking about to open it up and to think about, you know, where do I want to be? What are the things that I can do to meet my goals? What are the things that are within my control to address? I think if we recognize our own power to make change and to take action, then, you know, even in the act of doing, there is power in it that can help us overcome. And so I found that, you know, I found it better to take action than to do nothing, because I feel in the doing comes the ability to do more. And so, you know, that's sort of how I look at it. And I suppose everything that's the opposite of what I had said earlier about the skills that we need to build. You know, in supply chain, it is our job to build resilience into our companies. And we know how to do that. We know how to do that by planning, by being proactive, by having the right measures in place in the event of a certain scenario. And so the more that we can put all of those skills that we know already into our
Yes.
own lives, that's how we build resilience.
Yeah, absolutely. Now here, I'm going to be real with you, Camille, because you know, women, particularly women, have been challenged so much this year with everything going on, and men too. Like, it's just been a whirlwind type of a year. And sometimes I get the feeling like we always have to be on, like we always have to be positive, and we always have to be thinking about this stuff, and we always have to be on. But is there a time from your perspective that it's okay not to bounce back immediately? Like
Yes.
we're heading into another round of closures and all of that. Like,
Yes.
okay.
It is okay to not be okay. And it is okay to rest. And it is okay to take a break. And it is okay to say no. So if there's somebody who wants more of you, there
Right.
comes a time that you just say, I've got no more, right? And again, it's about self-care. It is, and I don't, there's nothing wrong with a feeling. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't feel good today. I don't feel ready for this. And I think it's good, and it's good to feel it, and not to say no, push it away. It's good to just feel whatever that is for a time. And then we have to decide, who am I? What am I about? What are my goals? And how do I take action to achieve those goals? But I think it's important to have that time when you take a step back anyway, because I do think it could be that, yes, you just take a break and then you keep moving. But sometimes if you're taking a break because maybe you need to pivot a little bit, maybe we need to change direction a little bit. Maybe we need to refocus, right? I mean, this opportunity with COVID has given us opportunities to spend more time with our children. And for a lot of us that have kids at home, I never had that opportunity. My children are almost grown. And, maybe I look back and say, I wish I had this time when they were 8 and 9 and 10. I don't have it. So for those of us who do, let's look at this as an opportunity. But so it may be an opportunity to pivot that way. But I do think it's important to feel the feeling, to not reject it, to feel it, and then decide, what am I going to do with this, and how do I see the positive side of this to move forward.
Absolutely. I love that. Feel the feels.
Feel it.
Feel it, understand it, take some time for yourself, give yourself some grace. I actually had a friend that told me that the other day. She's like, give yourself some grace. Just give yourself some grace. And I was like, that is perfect advice. Like, we all need to be okay with that this year, and moving forward is just the ability to give ourselves some grace and have that time to reflect and pivot as needed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So that was actually my next question about grace. So how do we give ourselves some grace during all of this going on?
Yeah. So as part of my role, and I mean, maybe for a lot of us in supply management and supply chain, we've talked a lot about sustainability, right? And as part of my role, I've taken on some new responsibility in that space and doing a lot of reading in that area. When I think about sustainability, I think about the earth. The earth gives, I love the fact that Mother Nature is a woman, right? Because I'm a woman and I kind of get it. There's sometimes that Mother Nature is like, you know what, I'm done. You've done all these things to me and I'm just done. And sometimes as a mom, I feel like the days that I'm done. But when we think about sustainability, it's about giving grace, right? It's about saying, what can we do to revive, rejuvenate? How do we take better care of the earth? How do we take care of Mother Nature? And I think for the same thing as humans, we came from the earth, right? As humans, we also need to give ourselves that grace and say, how do we take care of ourselves? And that includes our families, but even there are times that it's just for us. And so we talked about some of these things earlier about, taking care of our bodies, taking care of our health. We're in a pandemic, right? So there are things that we can do to ensure that we continue to build out our own well-being, our own immunity. That's important. And I think having a healthy body is critical. Taking care of our friendships and our relationships, whether those family relationships as well as our extended relationships. Making connections outside of work, but also connections at work. I think now that we're so separate, even though yes, we have Teams and Zoom and everything else, I know I miss those connections in the office. They're not just work colleagues. These are people that we spend 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, or used to, of our day with. And we used to share our lives with them. And we don't anymore. So finding those opportunities to continue to connect on a personal level the people that we used to work with. I mentioned earlier a couple of different groups I'm a part of, groups of friends from college and friends from high school. Taking this opportunity to make those longer term connections that we haven't done. I mean, we had these groups that we've always had for years. We should get together. We should get for 20 years. We should get together, and we never did.
Right.
But here we are. Right?
Yep.
And we're using this as the opportunity to get together. And so it's a little bit different, not quite what we expected. But I think that helps to give ourselves that grace, taking that break, and really kind of feeding our souls. And I know I need it. And I've had to learn this. This is not something that I was an expert on before COVID-19, or even an expert on before the last few months. I'm learning this as I go and learn from the experience, and really trying to build this into my life, because I used to be hard charging executive, always working, never any fun, no time off. And I realized that under these circumstances, that is just not, pardon the pun, sustainable.
Right.
We all need this. And I think one of the things that I love about where we are now, and always looking at the bright side, is, we realized early on with COVID, as we were having these meetings from home, where I felt like it humanized a lot of us, where, you're on the phone with somebody and their kid walks in the door.
Right.
Mommy,
Yep.
can I have some ice cream or something? Or the dog comes, or I love that. And people, sometimes, at first you sort of apologize for it. Now it's just normal.
Mhm.
For me, I feel like even that's grace, that we're giving each other the opportunity to say, hey, look, we're in this situation. We're in it together. I don't have young kids. I don't have any. I wish I had a young kid coming in and sitting in my lap. I don't. I have a 16-year-old boy. He's not coming and sitting in my lap. But I think it softens our relationships, and I've really started to enjoy that, and I'm going to miss it if and when we get back to the next normal, whatever that is. If we don't have, I'm going to miss that.
Yeah. It's funny because we're actually welcoming people into our houses.
Yeah.
Think about it that way. Like, I'm sitting in my office right now, and people like artwork from my kids, and I love seeing people's environments, their home environments, because we're actually every single day welcoming people into our homes. And how often do you really get to do that outside of COVID? Not that often. I know a person, someone yesterday who was from Nigeria, like would have never been able to welcome that person into my house anytime soon.
Yes.
That was such an amazing opportunity. So I love that aspect of what we're going through right now. So for those on the call today, I want to welcome any type of questions that you might have. We are going to have about 10, 15 minutes more of conversation with Camille, but then we want to open it up to you for us to answer any questions that you have on your mind. So either use the chat function or the Q&A function, and we would love to hear from you about the topic today. So Camille, let's move on to the next question for you. So in what ways have you personally become more resilient in the past year?
So I guess I touched on a couple of those earlier, but COVID has helped me to find, what are some things that I used to do that I can stop. I think that's one thing to help me be more resilient. There are things that I need to do more of, and by extension, there are things that I need to do less of. So I think that's number one, right? Just to change my schedule, if you will. I also mentioned higher reliance on people. Being connected with my family, being connected with my friends, and even connecting with my colleagues at a deeper level. And it's been really good, because I think we support each other, right? And I think being more open about the challenges that we're going through, and realizing that a lot of other people are having the same challenges. And so just it's been really good, and that's helped me. That feeds my soul to kind of talk to someone who's in the same boat or was in the same boat, and we share ideas of how we can address it. We were talking earlier even just about masks, and the different innovations with what we do with masks, about, how do you deal with the fogging, and how do you deal with the not sticking here, and how do you deal with not being able to talk, and we all come up with these ideas that we share. It's just been a lot of fun. It's been great to add fun to the work that we do. It's also been really nice I tell you, even this week, I think I've probably spoken to 6 or 7 non-ADM audiences, just through Zoom from my spare bedroom here. And,
Right.
and most of those conversations have been not necessarily work related. They're either career related or just, something like this, where we're just sort of having a conversation. And yeah, I've either been, one of a panel or the single speaker. And it's just been really nice to talk not about work
Yeah.
with a broader audience, and realize that there's a broader network out there, that we can tap into, that we can learn from. And I really hope that, going forward, we'll continue to build out these networks. I think it's been really, really positive, and I've personally benefited from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had the opportunity to take a very long road trip with my family this year over the summer. We went to like 7 different national parks. It was absolutely amazing. But I was reflecting on what I had learned through COVID thus far at that point. And one thing that just resonated with me over and over and over again is that the one thing that did not change was the relationships that I had. Like relationships and the ability to build relationships doesn't change no matter what's swirling around us in this world. Those relationships are what lasts.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like the number one like aha moment for me was, okay, relationships. I'm a big technology person, process person, really hard driving. But then I took a step back personally and said, no, where I'm going to focus my time and energy is building really robust, trusted relationships. Because that's at the end of the day what was stable. Like that is what really matters.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. Yeah. Very cool. So so here's a good one, because now we're going, and I wrote this question before all of these next round of shutdowns are occurring. And so it's really timely, but what advice would you have for people who feel like I have been bouncing back all freaking year and I don't think I can do it again?
Yep. I think the first time that Kathy and I met, it was at an ISM, one of the annual meetings. It was a women's breakfast. And, one of the things that I shared is that there are times that, it's time to quit. I mean, the reality is maybe this is a time to quit. And so I think that we need to, think about that, right? And that's not the first choice necessarily. But I do think, we have to go back to your core. I think about, who am I? What do I stand for? What are my goals? What do I want? If I'm a quitter, then I'm going to quit. Okay, then that's what I do. Again, take out the circumstance where you should. If I'm a fighter, I'm going to fight. If I'm a winner, I want to win. If I'm a doer, I'm going to do. If I'm a thinker, I'm going to think. And I think you have to just go back to who am I? Who am I? And what do I stand for? And that helps to guide the next action. There are times that the circumstances that you're in are telling you something. And the example that I used in that talk was kind of a weird one, and I apologize again, but here we are. It's like there's a baby growing in the womb, and there comes a time when the baby is too big for that space, and he or she needs to get out and do something else so that he or she can continue to grow. And there are times that we're in a situation, forget COVID, forget everything, just in a situation that you have outgrown. And if there's nothing more to learn, nothing more to do, nothing more to contribute, then it's time to grow. And I think we should always look for those opportunities. Is this a painful time for me because it's just a painful time where I can learn something? Or is this a painful time for me because I need to go do something else? And we all need to think about when the answer for that is right. I'm sure we've all taken that action at some point in our careers, but Amanda, I know you have, and I have. But we may need, this might be the time. If it gets too much and you find that it's too much, that could be not necessarily the first answer, but I also want to give folks grace to consider that as a potential solution. And certainly within what we're doing, if we're going to stay, then we have to think about what can I learn through this process? How can I approach it better so that I'm not as burned out? How can I add rest and take care of myself so that I can continue to bounce back? Did we lose Amanda? Oh no. Oh, there you are.
Bandwidth issues. So I missed the last portion of that, but I'm sure it was brilliant, Camille.
Of course.
All good. Okay, so I see questions coming in too, so I cannot wait to get to those. But for just us to wrap up this our chat here, do you have any closing thoughts on the topic, especially as we look forward to what might be around the corner in 2021?
Yeah. I'll start with, our roles in supply management and supply chain are integral to the resilience of the organization with which we work. And we can set the bar in building supply chain resilience by first building and demonstrating personal resilience. We can't be of any value to our organizations if we're not at first value to ourselves, right? We put our oxygen mask on first before we help others. And I think it's important as we think about that we put our oxygen mask on first. Not only for our companies, but also for our families, right? I am no use to my family if I'm not available to them. And so it's important that we take care of ourselves, that we build, do the things that give us joy, that give us energy, and then avoid the drainers. And those drainers may be people, they may be habits, they may be Netflix, it may be anything. You know what gives you energy, and you know what doesn't. You know what's a time waster, you know what's a time creator, and look for those things that are going to make you a better person.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Let's go into the all kinds of questions that I think we have coming in here. So let me scroll through. Okay. We have a comment from Deborah. I'm loving this conversation. Grace is, we need to put that in the front of our minds. How do you disconnect with the home office in the same place now?
So quick story. So I had to travel internationally on a personal issue last week, and so I am technically quarantining at home, and I'm quarantining in the same room with my home office, which is fun. So it's like I have to, just to get the lights down, I need to turn the stupid computer off so I can sleep. It's hard. It is. It's tough. I have found that I get tempted to go check on this thing and check on that thing, and it's right there, and I can send you that file right away. I've done pretty well though in general. My days are a little bit longer, and that's okay. But when it is over, which for me will be 2 more meetings after this one, to shut it down and walk away. Shut it down and walk away. Because why? It's going to be here first thing in the morning. It's not going anywhere. It takes some doing, but it's really just do it, right? Just shut it down and walk away.
Yeah. I have found, and I don't know if you found the same thing, Camille, but I found that there's a lot more flexibility in this too. So if I needed to work a little bit earlier in the day, I'll go ahead and work a little bit earlier, but I might need to take off at 3 o'clock, given, everyone's work environments. But if I need to get off at 3 to go manage my family, now I have the flexibility to kind of work that in and find that more appropriate balance. So I think there's also a lot of freedom and responsibility that come with working from home. But I love your tip about just shut it down. I also schedule time. So like, for instance, now, because I know like things are crazy, when my husband and I go on our walk, it's on my calendar. Like it is a meeting on my calendar. And so it's more immovable. And so maybe using some of the techniques that we've learned at work to also help manage what we must do in our personal lives is a good way to do it too. So what advice would you give to people who to not get lost in the virtual workspace, to stay relevant and to stay heard?
Mm. Within the organization, that becomes a little tougher, right? I think that, you're used to having the water cooler conversation and just walking through the hall and seeing people. One thing that I can't honestly say I do it all the time, but I have done it a few times and I found it helpful, is to still book lunch meetings. And I've always tried when I was in the office to have lunch with people that I want to get together with, and we talk about anything. Could be some work, but typically it's personal. And we'd have it over a real lunch. And so there are times that we've just it's typically because somebody wants to meet with me and there's no other time but lunch. And that's okay, well, have lunch with me and we'll get together. We'll be on Zoom, but I'm having my lunch and they're having their lunch. And I found that that's been one way to kind of connect with folks. And so that's how people are reaching out to me to stay relevant, is to take advantage of those times that we can maybe kill two birds with one stone, and to use an old proverb, but to just or using multiplicity, I guess, right? You can have to eat, so why not eat? I mean, it is more fun than eating alone anyway. So I think that's helped. The afternoon happy hours. I don't know that people are still doing those. They were very popular earlier days. I haven't done one in a while, but again, it's reaching out to people outside of the actual action items and just connecting. And then outside of work, things like this, getting together with folks outside of the organization, but a part of our network, and continuing to build on skills. It is much easier now to go to a seminar or to go to a conference, and cheaper, than it was before. And I found that I've been able to attend lots of events that ordinarily I would not have been able to attend. And so I'm building my skills, I'm building my network, all from the comfort of my own home.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things that I have found in this area that's just been amazing is that people are so much more available now. So
Yeah.
like I have found that if you ask, hey, can I have a virtual lunch, or can I have a meeting with you, just 30 minutes, you're getting a lot more yeses right now. So if there are people that you want to meet out there, that reach out to them, because right now I feel like people are looking for those connections, right? They want to build those relationships, but for some reason that people are also just more available. So
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it.
I miss traveling a little bit, but I don't miss the time waste that it is, right?
Right.
Driving to the airport, going through security, being on the plane for hours where you don't have connectivity. That's all gone. So all that time now, we're available to meet with people and available to connect.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The other thing that and maybe Camille, you can talk a little bit more about this too, but a concept that I use actually in my business is purposefully engaging. So when you think about who you want to meet, and those people that you're like, wow, I really love how they present themselves. Hopefully some people, as a result of today, will reach out to Camille on LinkedIn and say, you're just phenomenal, right? And I want to continue the conversation, but thinking strategically through who you want to engage with, and then go out and take that action and do it. Yeah, every morning I jot down who do I want to connect with today, and who do I want to connect to someone else. So making an introduction to someone else, it's like automatically on my to-do list every single day, because the more you can connect other people, the better off everyone is in those relationships.
Yeah. And it could be just something as simple as, hey, I loved your presentation last week and love to hear more, or how are you doing? If it's a friend, I think we're all starving for that connection, and both personally and professionally. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Well, we're going to pause here for just a second and see if there are any other questions out there in the audience that might be on your mind. It can be really anything. If you're okay with that, Camille, if someone has something on their mind that's outside of the topic today, feel free to ask. It's a wonderful opportunity to ask Camille what's ever on your mind. And so we'll pause for just a second. While we're waiting, Camille, if you don't mind me asking, what have you been doing with your teams in particular? Because I know you have a lot of accountability at ADM. So what have your leaders or you yourself been doing to help keep your team engaged through all of this?
Yeah. So in terms of the work, I mean, anybody who's been in supply management or supply chain has been really busy. I mean, we've been getting PPE and moving product and dealing with logistics and planning and demand management and all of these things. So certainly we're connected in terms of ensuring that we're meeting the needs of our business. One example is I have a weekly session with kind of my direct reports, and then I expand it to the broader team once a month, and we talk about best practices, et cetera. And we have our week 4 meeting coming up next week, and we've just decided we're not going to have an agenda for that meeting. We're just going to connect. Let's just see how everyone's doing. Yes, if somebody has a question about supply chain, we'll answer it, but really just leave it open format, just to see how people are doing, how are they feeling, how are they coping, sharing some ideas of things that have worked for one person that could work for somebody else. And so that's maybe one of the ways that I'm trying to make sure that that my team is feeling heard, and that their personal situation is being recognized. As a company, I think we've done a nice job of keeping people safe from a physical and health perspective. But sometimes we miss that mental and that emotional connection that we need to build. And so trying to do that, starting in this meeting next week. We've done some things like happy hours in the past. I think we've kind of gotten away from that as we're allowing people to spend more time with their families. And the virtual lunches, like I mentioned earlier. So we'll see how the session goes next week. I'm looking forward to it.
One thing that you've brought up a couple of times, Camille, is that the willingness to share, I think, is also something that is coming out of this that is making us all better leaders. Is that vulnerable moment to say, I'm going through this and I'm going to share it with someone else. But then you're finding out a lot of other people are going through it too, but they, either weren't sharing or you were in different circles, whatever it might be. But it's been amazing to me how much more willing we are to share what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, what we're going through. And I think it's just going to blossom into something much bigger and better, because now we're all truly learning from each other. And what's going well, what's not going well, and how we navigate through circumstances. So it's a great.
I think it's gonna drive quite a lot of innovation in how we connect with each other and how we even do business in the future. I think that business, as we build in technology, we've had this fear that you lose the personal nature of business. And I think we've shown that here with COVID, where we're leveraging technology, we have this yearn and this hunger for that personal connection. And so what it tells me is, as human beings, we're going to still continue to want personal connection. And I notice it more when I don't have it, that I need it even more. So the absence of personal connection has driven my hunger to do it better. And I think coming out of this, I will be a more open and vulnerable and connected professional.
That's okay. So we have, I'm just going to do one last call for any other questions that might be on your mind. So we'll give it a minute here or so, Camille, but I don't know if there's anything else that we haven't covered today, Camille, that was on your mind that you wanted to make sure that it kind of came across today.
I think it's just we have to take care of ourselves. When we talk about personal resilience, I think about leveraging what we're doing for our organizations today and all the wonderful work that we're doing and planning and preparing, and apply those to our personal lives. That's how we build personal resilience.
Love that. And I love that you're such a great example to so many, and that you're sharing what you've learned today with all of us. So truly appreciate your time, Camille, today, and your willingness to be peppered by questions from me and the audience. And so with that said, I think we'll wrap it up here. I don't see any other questions coming in from the audience. So thank you again to ISM New Jersey and the entire team over there. This was a wonderful conversation. And I hope everyone in the audience got a lot of really good tips out of it and actionable insights to take back to your personal lives. So thanks again for joining today, and I'll hand it back over to Pretty.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Camille. What a wonderful chat. I'm sitting there and picking up on all the themes that Camille and you are touching upon, and thinking in my head that how hard it's been this year, how hard has it been. And, you know, I'm actually enrolled in an executive MBA program. And so I just am not able to shut down at any given time. So I feel like, can I just do, like, maybe I just need to really just shut down and just go outside and just take a walk and say to myself, well, I need the time for myself and feel myself and you know, give myself that grace. It's just so much pressure that we're all in with ourselves. And I think even with the virtual environment, I think we're putting a little bit more pressure on ourselves because we have to be present, we have to be in front of people, and we have to put the best foot forward, especially you know, in the environment when you can engage face to face, and that vulnerability is you know, we've been able to bring that on the table. But thank you so much for sharing the insights, and personally, I was able to connect to a lot of it, and I hope our members did the same. And with that, I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. And thank you so much for attending today's program. And I think the last thing that I'm supposed to be saying is more about the CEH credits. So there will be a survey that will be sent out. And so please fill it out and you'll get your CEH credits. Again, thank you so much and have a happy holidays.